Rotarians and guests, welcome to the September 16th meeting of the Rotary Club of York. We are the 23rd largest Rotary Club in the world. Leading us today in our song and pledge is President-elect nominee Glenn Miller, and delivering our invocation is Rotarian Steve Feldman. Glenn.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rotarians, please join me in a word of prayer. God of all of us, you made us more alike than different. You made us different in ways that broaden and strengthen us if we can but see that breadth and strength. Help us to see diversity as beauty and unity as strength, for we need both strength and beauty in living our lives. Thank you for the diverse strength of Rotary International. We are grateful for the tools of Rotary that help us look for common ground and mutual truth and benefit. Inspire us to follow those paths of peace and cooperation that Rotary dictates in our public and our private lives. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Glenn and Steve. And we have quite a few announcements for everyone today. Our sympathy to Rotarian Fran Polk and her family at the passing of Fran's mother, Frances McCabe. Gordon had written an article on Fran's mother a year ago when she turned 100. And that article said that she was an independent thinker. So she joined the Women's Army Corps in early 1943, and this was without her parents knowing so. At 23, she was sent for basic training and became a member of an officers candidate school class and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in April of 1943. Mrs. McCabe was active in many York anchor institutions, including the organization that eventually became the United Way of York County and board chair of the YWCA. She was called the commander, and Fran, I'm sure she will be missed by you, and she really had a life well led. So our sympathies to you, Fran. Strategic Planning Committee meets today at 1 via Zoom. Youth Leadership Committee meets today also at 1 via Zoom. Youth Leadership and Strategic Planning Committees meet today at 1. Okay, our country is facing fires on the West Coast and another hurricane. I think it's Sally in the Gulf. We can do our part locally. Preserve Planet Earth Committee needs volunteers and is requesting your help for the York City Trash-a-thon. And this is September 19th. Contact Austin Schenk, and his information and email address is on your screen. During the Board of Directors meeting last Thursday, we accepted the resignation of Rotarian Tom Kern and recognized him for his 30 years of club service. Thank you, Tom. Questions, program suggestions are always welcome, and please share those with past President Mike Summers, chair of our program committee. We are looking for questions for the upcoming candidates forum, and that is with Eugene D. Pasquale. That will be a conversation with him on October 7th, sorry. And this is the second part of our meeting with the candidates for the 10th Congressional District. Our Rotary Club board also approved the creation of our new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. We're very pleased to share with you today that fellow Rotarian Cal Weary has agreed to lead this important effort that will ultimately embrace and involve our entire club. Several Rotarians have expressed interest in lending their expertise and talents to the task force. We welcome your participation. If you're interested in serving, feel free to contact Cal, President-elect Jackie Summers, Bert, or me. Thank you to everyone who supported our successful golf outing on Monday, and we just had beautiful weather. So what we will do is Ben will show many of the sponsors that helped to make this event a success. I won't name all of them because there are so many, so great job to the committee for securing all these sponsors, and we appreciate the help and support of each and every one of you. As you know, the beneficiaries of our event are 3 new projects and 1 long-time project. The new projects are Kiwanis Lake Restoration, the York High Bearcat Interact Club, and child care scholarships with child care consultants. And the 4th and final is our longtime York City Little League project. So thank you all. And the chair, Darren Smith, will be joining us shortly and provide an update of the results of the event. So next, we get to welcome Sergeant Brian Rohrbal and Lieutenant Kahn, and Dyer Hershey, past President Dyer Hershey, will give us an update. Thank you, Dyer.
Thank you, Ann. Good afternoon, Rotarians. 3 years ago, the Rotary Club of York took part in our first Give Local York campaign to raise funds to add a drug dog to the Sheriff's Department. Between that campaign and an anonymous donation from one of our generous members, we raised $60,000+, and today York County is fortunate enough to have Lieutenant Kahn on patrol. We thought it would be a good time to catch up with Sergeant Rohrbal and find out how Lieutenant Kahn is doing. So let's welcome our K9 friends to our Rotary meeting. And Sergeant Rohrbal, please tell us how everything's going.
Thank you, Rotarians. Thank you, Dyer, for having me. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly to try to stick within my time frame. Oh, hold on. Technical issues. There we go. Starting back in 2018, Kahn came on service in September 26, so he had a short year. But in that short time frame, he responded to 27 callouts and 1 track. In 2019, for his first full year of service, he responded to 91 drug callouts, 7 tracks, 4 area searches, and 20 other types of callouts, which mostly are visual deterrent effects. If there was a search warrant being served, they would use Kahn and his loud bark to try to keep everybody contained and not fleeing from the area. So far this year, we had a little bit of a setback with COVID, but he's responded to 61 drug callouts so far, 6 tracks, and 2 other types of callouts. So that brings his total to date to 179 drug callouts, 14 tracks, 4 area searches, and 22 other types of callouts, for a total of 219 callouts in his 2 years. And I always like to add that that is a lot of callouts for a short period of time. There are some working dogs that go their entire career with doing less than 100 callouts. On November 8th, I helped the drug task force serve a search warrant in the city. Upon entering the 3rd floor bedroom, the room was filled with marijuana smoke to the point to where I was physically able to see it wafting around the room. The Kahn alerted to a speaker box that was sitting up against the wall. I spun the box around and noticed that the speaker was missing, and the box was filled with miscellaneous types of mail and different types of other paper. I pulled a piece of paper out, and this came rolling out and fell out of the box. That's 19 grams of powder cocaine. On January 25th of 2019, again with the Drug Task Force, a search warrant in the Windsor area, when we made entry into the house, we were able to see this laying on the coffee table in the living room. I deployed Con into the third floor bedroom where the target of the search warrant was located. And Con alerted to his dresser, to an air mattress that was on the floor, and to the head area of the air mattress where there was several grocery bags. This was a 3 search warrants simultaneously hit, so I didn't stick around to see what was found, but they did notify me later on. Inside the dresser that was located, as you can see, that's several different types of paraphernalia, and there is some narcotics in there as well. This was found inside the grocery bags, and inside the grocery bags there was all types of different material, to include dog feces, and Con was able to detect the narcotics through all that odor. And luckily for me, this was found underneath the bed, just the way you see it sitting there on the paper. So luckily Con did not get his nose underneath that mattress, or else he could have ingested that, which is where the importance of the Narcan I carry for Con comes in handy. On November 19th, again with the Drug Task Force, we conducted a traffic stop in the Airville area. I deployed K9 Con around a pickup truck that had a cover over top of the bed. Con crawled underneath the truck on the bed area up to the middle of the bed where the cab and the bed met, crawled back out and then gave me his alert. We dropped the back of the bed, and inside we found a blue duffel bag. When we opened up the duffel bag, we found this. This in total is 15 pounds of marijuana in vacuum sealed bags, a pound of THC wax, and somewhere in the area of 60 to 75 THC vape cartridges. After the traffic stop, we conducted a search warrant on this subject's house and found an additional 5 pounds of marijuana and 6 pounds of THC wax. After speaking with the subject and what he buys, the amount of money he buys this for and what he sells it for, it came to a street value of over $100,000 that we took off the street in just this one hit. In September 26th, I was called out to Eichelberger's U-Point in the Spring Grove area. There was subjects that were breaking into the junkyard, and they had them on camera. The subjects, before they fled, actually dismantled the cameras. They got away with some computer equipment and the money box that was inside one of the trailers. I was called to do an area search to make sure that the subjects were no longer inside of the junkyard, but being that I had a last known point of where they were, I decided to try a track instead. So I deployed Con on a track, and he ran about 10 feet, made a hard left, and then disappeared through the fence area of the junkyard. Once I exited through the fence as well, I yelled back to the officers to make sure that none of them had gone through that area, and the officer stuck his head through the wall and said that he was not even aware that that area was there. I continued the track, and Con followed the fence of the junkyard the whole ways around, and the track ended in a cornfield back behind the junkyard. A few months later, the subjects were captured, and during an interview, they admitted to breaking into this junkyard as well as 2 other businesses in the area. And when they were asked about the junkyard, how they did it and everything else, they laid out where they parked, the area that they traveled, and how they entered, and Con was spot on. They parked the car back in the cornfield, walked the edge of the fence line, actually kicked in the fence, and that's how they got in and out, and Con followed everything along there. And Con got recognition from that police department for finding that for them, or else they said they would have never been able to find it on their own. On February 22nd, I was dispatched out to a missing 83-year-old dementia patient that walked away from his house at about 10 o'clock at night. I didn't get the call until midnight, so he was already missing for 2 hours. I went in, spoke with the wife, got some details of when this happened before and the area that he might have went to. I deployed Con on a track, and he tracked for about 20 minutes through fields, woods, and down the main road. And he ended his track at the edge of a stream on the embankment. After I allowed the search and rescue team that showed up to do their thing, they were unsuccessful during the time. The chief of police came up to me and asked me if there was anything else that I would rather do before they called in additional resources. And being that I was the only one on the track and it was midnight, it was hard for me to see in areas because I was focused on the dog. So I told him I'd like to retrace the track, and so I was able to search some of those areas that I wasn't able to the first time. There was a game commission officer that was there, and he said since he is trained on searching woods and everything else that he would like to come with me. So we backtracked while we retraced Con's track. When we came to the end of the track, I let the game commission officer know that this is where Con ended. We continued further down into the cornfield, and the subject was actually, we located the subject. I have on there 100 yards. It was probably a little bit less than that from where Con ended his track. He was propped up against a tree in a wetland area. So all in total, the subject was outside for over 4 hours in 26-degree weather. And when we found him, he was soaking wet from about his calves of his legs down. And this is the path that Con took me. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse on there or not. But he followed a fence line for the horse path, circled around a couple areas through the woods, came back out to the main road. I don't have it marked on there, but where that last right-hand turn before I go back into the field, Con actually made a left and went down and was searching around the stream area. Where I have it marked here as the end of the track is where Con stopped at the end of the embankment. And then we found the subject over where that little red blob is there on the right hand of the screen. So after we found the subject and I realized that he was wet from the calves down, I figured out that where Con ended his track is most likely where that subject walked down into the stream and walked up through the stream to where we found him. So when Con made his left and was down searching the stream, that's because the skin cells were floating down through the water and he was picking it up from down there. On March 22nd, Northern York County Regional Police Department called me out for a traffic stop on a subject they had. I deployed Canine Con around the car. He alerted on the driver's side window. So Northern York County searched the car and noticed that the housing to the headlight switch was loose. When they popped it out, they found that black bag hiding behind the console there. They opened up the bag and noticed that, as well as that. So they laid it all out. That's what they have for me. All in all, that's $2,200 in cash, 22.2 grams of crack cocaine, 11.5 grams of powdered cocaine, and 13.6 grams of heroin. On August 4th of this year, this one actually has a little bit of a story to it. We served a search warrant on this house in March. I deployed Canine Con inside. Upon me entering, the drug task force was already searching the kitchen area and they had the subject sitting in, I'll call it the dining room area. So I did not search those two areas with Con because of the people being in there. I searched the rest of the house. We got a little bit of narcotics, a little bit of drugs out of it. After we left, I got a text the next day from the drug task force officer saying this target reached back out to the CI and said that we missed what we were looking for, that we were standing right on top of it. So on August 4th, we served another search warrant on this house after COVID. We kind of got delayed because of COVID, so we couldn't go back right after we found this out. So August 4th, we served the second search warrant, and now we pretty much had an idea that he had a hidden compartment somewhere in the house, most likely in the kitchen area. So I cleared everybody out of the house to the point to where it was me, Con, and 2 drug task force officers, just so Con could run around freely and do his thing. Con alerted on the curtains of the back door in the kitchen area and on a radiator that was in the dining room area. So we searched the two areas. We couldn't find anything. We kept trying to find a trap door or something on the floor. And then the drug task force officer asked me, he goes, he started laughing. He goes, did you see Con bite the curtain? I said, no. I said, when did he do that? He goes, when he was sitting there, he goes, you turned to look away and he bit at the curtain. So I said, as weird as this is going to sound, go back and check those curtains. So when he went back and checked the curtain, he found a small bag of cocaine hidden in the hem of the curtain. So we went over to the dining room area at the radiator where Con alerted to, and the curtain went pretty much from the ceiling to the floor. It was a really long curtain. So we pulled the curtain out, turned it sideways, and all in all, we found 4 ounces of powder cocaine hidden within the curtains inside the hems. Everybody that I talked to that was there that day said they've never seen that in their life, and if it wouldn't have been for Con, they would have missed it again because nobody ever thought to look in the curtains. So again, I want to thank everybody for their continued support of Con and allowing me to be his handler. It's the best position I've had, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant Brian, and congratulations on your promotion and on Con's promotion to lieutenant. Steve's prayer of strength and beauty is just a theme for today because obviously he is a beautiful animal and his success is really reliant upon the strength of relationship that you have with him, and not just you, but also your other team members. And we know this just isn't a punch in and punch out for you. As you said, the one search for the gentleman that you found was at midnight. But we know that Sergeant Con is a member of your family. So thank you so much for the great work that you're doing to clearly save lives in our community and keep drugs off our streets and out of the bodies of our precious citizens. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sergeant Rohrbaugh. Take care to you and Con and stay safe out there.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Past President Dye, for bringing that update to our club and for all of you that made Con's journey to our community possible for your generous donations. Today we have a business spotlight thanks to Rotarian Bobby Andaleo. The York County Literacy Council provides instruction in English language acquisition, reading, writing, math, and U.S. citizenship, high school equivalency instruction and testing, and assist adult students pursuing career goals. They include English adult basic education for English-speaking adults, English language learning featuring 4 levels of instruction, emphasizing comprehension and communication for non and limited English speakers. Their citizenship classes educate lawful permanent residents in the study of civic rights and duties of U.S. government and history. The Literacy Council is the only certified HiSET, that is high school equivalency exam testing center in entire York County. Their Next Step program provides assistance with career exploration, resume writing, interview techniques, and employment etiquette. Volunteering is also an important part of the Literacy Council's mission, as volunteer tutors extend their reach to adults unable to attend regularly scheduled classes. Tutors meet students in public venues or using Zoom platforms. The Literacy Council provides free training to become a tutor. Volunteers also assist with events, committees, and awareness activities. On March 30th, the Literacy Council began providing remote instruction to 300, many of whom were comforted by the familiar face of their regular instructor. For those students who were not connected, study packets were mailed to their homes, supplemented by weekly calls from their instructors. Students also received information on COVID-19, healthcare assistance, food distribution centers, and rental assistance, connecting their students to many nonprofit agencies working through this crisis. Today, York Literacy is operating using a hybrid model of instruction, a combination of in-person and virtual classrooms, delivering their mission of education. The Literacy Council is an active affiliate of Pro-Literacy and a proud partner of the United Way of York County Partner Agency. For more information, you can visit them at yorkliteracy.org. And next is our poll, and thanks to Bert, you can put the paws in the air to vote for today's poll. Ben.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. This is this week's poll. We love the presentation from Con so much, we decided to make our poll all about the canine police dogs. So the question is, what country do most canine police dogs come from? Is it A, Germany, B, Belgium, C, Czech Republic, or D, Netherlands? You should be able to see the poll on your screen right now. Looks like about 8% of you have voted so far, and the responses are coming in pretty hot. So again, what country do most canine police dogs come from? Germany, Belgium, Czech Republic, or Netherlands. We're going to give you about 15 more seconds here. Looks like the results are coming in pretty hot. Looks like there's definitely a country that's being favored here. We'll find out in just shortly if you guys are correct. And we're going to give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so these are the results that we got. So it looks like the majority of you think that Germany is the correct answer. Czech Republic is second at 20%, then Belgium and Netherlands last. So it looks like there's a 20% of you that are correct. The correct answer is Czech Republic. So now we know Czech Republic has the most, is where most canine police dogs have come from. And back to you.
Thanks a lot, Ben. And actually, Con, our guest, he is actually a German Shepherd from Germany. So I also did want to thank Dyer for that update, thank Bert for the poll, and Ben. And back to Steve's prayer for us about strength and beauty. We saw that with Con, and you're also going to see that with our next speaker. Today's speaker is the president of the Rotary Club of Greenville, South Carolina. We actually have much in common with the Rotary Club of Greenville. Our clubs were both formed in 1916, and our clubs are the largest in our respective states. Rotary Opens Opportunities is our international theme this year, and Jackie and Bert and I had the opportunity to network and learn best practices at the large club conference last year. So the seed for today's program was really planted a year ago in Chattanooga, Tennessee, during the 2019 Large Club Conference, where Jackie, Bert, and I met Jane. Jane Dyer is retired from flying in 2017 as a Boeing 777 captain. She amassed over 10,000 accident-free hours at FedEx. Prior to the 777, she was captain of the Airbus 300 and Boeing 727. Previously to flying for FedEx, she had a short stint at TWA in the Lockheed L-1011. Her flying career began in the U.S. Air Force, where she flew KC-135, an air refueling aircraft, and instructed the T-37, a primary trainer for the Air Force. Jane is a native of Greenville. She graduated from Clemson University with a degree in mechanical engineering. She was the first female commander of Air Force ROTC and was the first female from Clemson selected to attend pilot training. While in the Air Force, she met and married her husband, John Dyer. He is a retired pilot from Michelin Tire Corporation. John also retired from the U.S. Air Force as a pilot, serving 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. He is a highly decorated pilot, including the Purple Heart. They have 4 children, 3 grandchildren, and a great-grandson. Jane has always been active in her community as a youth sports coach, church volunteer, and Boy Scout Merit Badge counselor. Through Greenville Women Giving Grant Review Committees, Jane helped champion grants to put Girl Scout troops at Tanglewood Middle School and develop sustainable ecosystems of the Reedy River through Unity Park. She is on her 2nd term of the Clemson Corps Board and is president of the Rotary Club of Greenville. Both Jane and her husband have been named to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum Wall of Honor. Members of the Rotary Club of York, please put your virtual hands together for a big welcome for an accomplished pilot, an Air Force veteran, and a fellow Rotarian, Jane Dyer.
President Ann, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me and sharing, giving me the opportunity to share with you our experience with diversity and inclusion and the great positive impact it's had on our club. As you all know, Rotary Opens Opportunity, and this year we're embracing the diversity Opens Opportunity. why embrace diversity? Today we're going to talk about why does diversity matter to me personally? Why does diversity matter to our club? And does diversity make a difference in the long run? Well, as you heard from the introduction, that many, many times I have been the only woman in the room. And that is why I have a very passionate want and desire to try to help people come to an understanding of how it feels to be that one and only different person in the room. I graduated from Clemson University, as did my father, who also majored in mechanical engineer. And I was so happy to hear about, sorry to hear about the passing of Mrs. McKay, but to hear about her contribution as a female second lieutenant in the United States Army in 1943. Obviously, that was close to my heart. So I was glad to hear her story, and to, my condolences to the family, but what an amazing woman. When I was at Clemson, I'm one of 8 children, so I have 7 brothers and sisters. So while we were growing up and going to college, we all were encouraged to be able to find ways to help pay for our college. And my father, as I said, went to Clemson. And so I pursued getting an Air Force ROTC scholarship, which I was able to do. And had a great time, but there weren't many women going to pilot training from Air Force ROTC. So I was able, during my junior year, our detachment went down to Florida, and I got to fly in a T-37, which is a small dual jet aircraft, for the first time I ever flew in my life. And so the pilot was an Air Force pilot who had been in Vietnam. It was a beautiful day with big white puffy clouds, blue sky. And he said, today our job is to get as close to these clouds as we can without touching them. So we did loops and rolls and went upside down, and I thought that was the greatest thing ever. I can tell you, when other people landed, they did not think it was so great. So I guess it's a certain little DNA, part of my DNA, that loves doing those adventurous things. So that got me hooked, and I decided right then I definitely wanted to be a pilot. So you have to apply for that, and they had just started taking women in 1978, so there was a process. So I did get my assignment to pilot training, and I was assigned to Laughlin Air Force Base, which is in West Texas. And they laughed at Clemson and said, "What have you done, Ballard, to get to go to West Texas?" And I said, "I don't know, but I'm sure that it had something to do with there should be 2 or 3 women in every class of 60, and the Air Force had it all figured out, and it was all gonna work out fine." Well, I showed up at pilot training, and it turns out of the 60 people in the class, I was the only female. And over 60% of my class were from Texas A&M. They were all, brand new second lieutenants like myself. And if you're familiar with Texas A&M, they were all in the Corps. So they weren't just regular Air Force wannabe fighter pilots. They all came from the Corps at Texas A&M. I don't think that they were at the point of embracing women at the time. So it was very challenging and interesting. And I think that definitely was the first time I was ever in a position where people really, really, really did not care for me, did not want me to be there, thought I shouldn't be there, and made that very clear. Of course, that put a lot of more self-induced stress on me. Of course, I would go up for a ride and think, oh my goodness, my performance will determine if women ever get to fly in the Air Force again. So it was quite an interesting year, and just so, I guess, stunned and unprepared for the reaction of other people there. In fact, our class had to vote on 5 goals for the class. And they literally voted that one of the goals would be that we graduate with no women in the class. So they made their desires known, but toward the end, everybody did finally speak to me. The one holdout, I think he spoke to me a week before graduation, but I persisted and did get my wings in the Air Force and went on to fly a KC-135. And of course, being a new second lieutenant pilot, most of the crews had never worked with women before. And there were, those who just like one aircraft commander I had, he had never worked with women. He didn't want to work with women. He shouldn't have to work with women. And his wife was as vocal as he was, and it made for challenging times. But on the other hand, of course, we had other pilots who were very accepting and made it a lot of fun. But the challenge was always there to continue to be professional, do your job, know your stuff, and to try to communicate and get along regardless. After that experience, which was not my favorite, I did get to volunteer to be a T-37 instructor. And that's when you go back and teach people in the very beginning of pilot training how to fly airplanes. So most of these people have, the men especially, many of them had wanted to be a pilot their entire lives. So they were ready, they were motivated, they worked hard, and that was a really great and rewarding job. So after those years in the Air Force, I did do that short stint at TWA just for a year, and then went on to FedEx, where I flew the Boeing 727. Started off as a flight engineer, a first officer, and then a captain. And once again, difficult situations would show up. We had to go to the simulator twice a year. And there were some typically more experienced older pilots who seemed to be more disdainful of having women. And so when you went to the simulator, they could make anything happen. Like you lose hydraulics, you lose an engine. Of course, all this is in the simulator. And back then there was no format. So if you were doing okay, they just kept throwing the stuff at you, hoping to find a point that you would not do well. And so luckily I was able to hold on. I did have a few of those very challenging simulators with people who, in my perspective, maybe would like to see me not do well, but I survived. And then of course there were other great guys who taught me a lot and encouraged me, and that was good too. But I did learn then that being a, one of only, that there is a point to where you have to speak up and say, this is not right, this is unacceptable. There are federal laws that say how the workforce should be. There are company policies. And I do think that's an important part of it, is for people to be willing to speak up and for us to be able to hear what other people are saying. And that, of course, is not just for me at the time, but to realize that all the women coming behind me need to have, for everybody to understand what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. Oh, I will tell you another quick story about the 727. I believe Lehigh Valley Airport, which we called ABE, is not far from you guys. I think a couple hours away. I will share with you that I'm kind of familiar with your winter weather. As a brand new captain, of course, FedEx flies at night. So I probably landed there at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And back then, the approaches were not as precise as they are today. So it would bring you in to where hopefully you would see the field, and then you kind of had to take over visually and land the airplane. And it was snowing like crazy. And of course, the wind was blowing sideways to the runway. And I was a brand new captain. I was getting a check ride. And oh my goodness, it was like the worst possible events. I did break out. I saw the runway. We found it. We landed. We had sufficient braking. It all worked out fine. But I was on a check ride, and usually you're very nervous. And I said, I don't care if I passed or failed. I am just so glad to be on the ground. So I appreciate the weather in your area sometimes. And then I got to be a Airbus 300 captain. I flew all over the US and then got to fly a little bit into Europe, which was wonderful. They paid me to go to Paris. And one of my very last trips was a long layover in Tel Aviv. And I had no idea Tel Aviv was so gorgeous. And of course, I got to do some local sightseeing, so that was really wonderful. And then to my final airplane, the Boeing 777, I got to be a captain, and for 5 years flew around the world with FedEx. It was truly amazing. And as you know, COVID has changed many things. My two girlfriends who were in the Air Force with me, one is a captain at American and one is a captain at United, and things they are changing dramatically. And because of this, because of the way things changed, neither of them are ever going to have the opportunity to be a Boeing 777 captain. So I realized how very fortunate I was and the opportunities that I have had. And to give you an idea about this airplane, you see it there, and then you see I'm standing in the engine of the airplane, so you can tell it's a pretty big airplane. That was quite a great thing to do. I'm going to share with you quickly some of my favorite travel locations, because to me that was the best part of the job. I got to go to Paris and China. We went to Singapore. This is in Dubai, and that's the Burj Khalifa, which is at that time the tallest building in the world. And they have this super fast elevator that takes you to the very near the top for the lookout. And as you probably know, in Dubai, they actually have an aquarium in a shopping mall. So that was pretty cool. And to the Taj Mahal in India. I got to, one of my best experiences, got to climb to the top of Mount Fuji. And you climb at night. You start at 7,500 feet and climb to 12,500 feet. And it's because, you know, as you know, Japan is known as the land of the rising sun. And that I found out is because it is to the east of China. So in the ancient communication between Japan and China, then Japan was the land of the rising sun. So you see the first sunrise there. So that's the sun rising over Tokyo Bay in Japan. And this is an interesting photo to me. I've always loved this. And it's kind of like, to me, the diversity and the two different perspectives. Many of us have, of course, seen on a cloudy day and the late afternoon sun coming through the clouds and the rays and the beams and the colors and how beautiful that can be. Well, this is kind of the other side of that. This is the sun coming up and peeping down below the horizon up through the clouds to our vantage point. And I think it's just such a great symbol of how we're seeing the same things and how they're different and beautiful. And it's wonderful to be able to embrace that. So for me, the great opportunities I've had in my own personal diversity challenge is how do we talk to our young women? When I started at FedEx, we had 5% women. And now we're at like 4.5%, 30 years later. And that is kind of true throughout the whole airline industry. So do we talk to our young women the same we do to young men, that really anything is possible, and to encourage them to be mechanical engineers, to be pilots, just to embrace whatever opportunity comes. So that is my personal challenge to you, is to make sure that we are aware of how we are talking to young women today. So obviously diversity is personal to me. And so the next question is, why does diversity matter to our club? Our club is very strong in our commitment to peace and conflict resolution and prevention. We had a conference about 2 years ago, a peace conference. We had about 300 attendees, and we had great panelists and speakers, and just how do we all move toward peace and conflict resolution. And since then, one of our presidents said it, I thought, in a great way, that we really want our club to reflect our community. And that way we can be more effective in who we are reaching out to serve in our community. So I was the membership chair this year, and we decided that we would be intentional about diversity. So I heard earlier that you have already formed a task force, so that's wonderful, a diversity inclusion task force. And you know, this is not everybody's deal. So you need people who are passionate about it, obviously. And we were able to get those people together. We set up the date and time. And our team started reaching out to people within our club and outside of our club. And I will say that my neighbor, who's a wonderful, wonderful woman, is a Black woman who was a plant manager of Sealed Air in Greenville and moved up the ranks with Sealed Air, and she became a human resource trainer for Sealed Air across the US and then eventually around the world. So she was a great asset to me, retired, but she said, you know, I'm kind of out of the direct contact, but she stuck with and invited numerous people that were contacts of her contacts. So it was that kind of commitment that got us to we came up with a list of about 120 names, and we invited them to the event. Our event consisted of, it was a breakfast. The district governor came in with a speaker. She has been a district governor prior and is just a delightful woman, so she was excellent. And of course, we had small groups at each table. We made sure that there was one of our club members at each table. And then we had, like, we call ours Discover Rotary, which is like a information session. So we covered what our club does, what Rotary in general does, and just inform people that may have never been touched by Rotary but are very professional organizational leaders, community leaders who are also looking to serve the community. And we followed all that up with phone calls and emails. So the results were we had 31 guests who attended out of our 120 people. So it takes a lot of context to get this started. We had 10 new members for our club and then 3 new members for other area clubs. You probably have other different kinds of clubs around you, and everybody, something different for everybody. So that's great. So that brings us to the question is, does diversity really make a difference? And I would say in our club, absolutely. You can see the difference. They've brought enthusiasm and encouragement and understanding. Like I said, a new enthusiasm and a new perspective, because there are times that we do things and we're not even thinking, are we being inclusive? Are we requesting diversity and inclusiveness? And they're able to point that out to us, which is good. At our board meetings, they have voices and concerns about our service projects. And as you can see in this picture, the students are exposed to people who look like them, who are successful adults. This is one of our Rotarians. She is the Army recruiter. And so she fit right in with Dr. Seuss Week. It really has permeated throughout our whole club. We have a wonderful new member orientation leader, and she is just awesome. Well, it turns out she's an actress. She got her degree in mechanical engineering, and she certainly was not a fit for that. And now she is an actress, and she just exudes enthusiasm and warmth, and she has made a huge difference in our new members orientation. Basically, from our peace and conflict resolution conference, we have a real core group of people that would like to resolve and to prevent conflict. So that group is now embedded throughout our whole club, and we are bringing forth it's called the Greenville Equity Challenge about racial justice. And it'll be a 21-day challenge that people can commit to be a part of, and we will be challenging each other to do reading, to have interaction, to work on solutions. And we will have another diversity event in the spring, and we will have in February, I believe it is, we're going to have a whole meeting that will be about peace and conflict resolution. And of course, with things that are going on right now, we'll be talking about racial justice. So it is that core group of people who are committed to this. This is their passion, to make sure that we are diverse and inclusive in our club. Like I said, we have more energy, we have more enthusiasm, and we're much better aware of how we could serve our community better. We've adopted an elementary school that's the lowest per capita income in our county, and just the things that we're able to do, and like I said, for the kids to see successful adults like them is really wonderful for them and for us. So as you can see, diversity has indeed opened opportunities in our club, and these people are amazing. It really has changed our club. I mean, you walk in and there's a whole different energy going on, and I love it, and I'll appreciate everybody in our club. And hopefully it will help Rotary as a group to work toward solving problems that we have and being a real important pillar to our community. So thank you very much. That's how I feel about diversity and inclusion, my experience, how our club feels about it, what we've done, and that for us, the effort was well worth the enhancement we have of having people who do have different opinions and attitudes and ideas, and that we all learn a little bit more about having that different perspective, seeing the same things, and maybe it meaning different things to us. So thank you, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, President Jane. That was excellent. Thank you for sharing your very impressive career and the travels that took you to, and how that really impacted, what your experience impacted your drive for diversity in Rotary. We do have a couple questions. Before I get to them, I'll just give you a shout out from one of our members whose daughter graduated from Clemson in May, and she says, "Go Tigers."
Go Tigers.
Yeah. Okay, so this one, I'm glad, past president of our club asked that. You and I were chatting before the call started, our meeting started. How many members are in the Greenville club? And can you give us also a perspective of how large Greenville is, your population of your town?
Okay, we have 220 members in our club. Unfortunately, we have lost members due to COVID-19 for various reasons, I'm sure just like your club. But the greater Greenville area is about 500,000. We have, of course, the city and then lots of suburbs of Greenville. And so, and we have, I think, 6 different clubs in our in Greenville. So we range from our club to we have some that are just like 10 or 15 people. So it's whatever people are looking for. I think Rotary offers it in Greenville.
All right, thanks for giving us that size perspective. Another question for you, do Rotarians serve as members to young people as part of your diversity program?
We are not into that yet. That's a great idea. We are mentors at the school to the school age students, but we are not mentors to like middle school or high school yet, but that is a great idea.
Okay. This one is would be maybe a little bit more challenging to answer, and that is, what is more dangerous, intentional or unintentional non-diversity?
Oh, in my opinion, unintentional non-diversity. Because I think when you open the door and you have an authentic relationship, then people are able to say, no, maybe you should look at it this way. Or, you know, like we were sharing some pictures of our club and somebody goes, have you looked at that picture? You know, maybe it should be more inclusive of our entire club. And things like that, I think if you have that authentic relationship, that at least if you start it with a good heart, I think people know that and they feel that and they understand that. And you know, like, and I'll be the first to say, I, as a female, one of the few females in the Air Force pilots, I don't want a token female pilot. I want a good pilot. And I know that women can be good pilots. So the tokenism I am not for, but the opportunity that people do have to do anything, that I think that's vital in our community. And the statistics also prove that, you know, an inclusive, diverse organization is more effective than those that are not.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jane. Did you encounter any pitfalls we should avoid in our diversity, inclusion, and equity efforts?
I would say that I tend to be centered with what's in my head and what I want to do, but I think it's important to realize there are a lot of people that this is a difficult thing for them. It is not their passion. They just think if we didn't do anything, it'll eventually all just organically happen. And they're not vocally against it, but you can tell there's a little resistance there. And I think that's going to happen. I think it's probably good to be a little bit prepared for that. And you know, we are all different people, and everybody has their own story or their own background, and I recognize that. But I think that it's well worth some of us being a little bit uncomfortable for the greater good of Rotary and for our community and for the world.
Thank you for sharing that, Jane. And I do want to applaud you. I noticed in researching before you were meeting with us today, I checked out your club's website, and many of the pictures in your presentation or on your club's website were pretty new to Club Runner, but it's been a good transition for us. When we were meeting in person, we had these nice magnetic badges that you just scan to show your attendance, but I see where you're using Club Runner, and you really have those great diverse pictures, so that when diverse individuals in your community are checking out your club, they see right away that you embrace diversity. So bravo to you, your communications folks, whomever is making that happen.
Our website had gotten a little stagnant, and luckily we have a woman who is very enthusiastic about it, and she's worked with people, and it has really made a difference, because now it portrays. It used to start off with telling everybody, and we are proud to be the oldest club, and in South Carolina, and the largest club. But there's more to Rotary than just our history. So she has done a great job, and I'll pass that on to her.
All right, thanks. So here's a question. You did share some numbers as a result of your effort, your diversity breakfast. How close is your club to meeting the objective of reflecting your community in terms of percentage of members?
We have a long way to go. I'm pretty sure Greenville, or I know South Carolina is like 22% Black Americans, and about, I think it's only like 8% Hispanic. And the Hispanic community has been very challenging for us. Even in this school that we go to, there are a lot of families who are very reserved about interacting with us. And so that's a big hurdle, but I would say, so that means we're only, we're only 10 out of 220 plus a half of 1%. So we have got a long way to go, but we've got good, enthusiastic people that are working on it, and you know, just getting the word out that, you know, we want you to be with us, to network with each other, and to serve our community.
That's great, Jane. And what we're learning is it's not a sprint. It's not flipping a light switch. It is a journey. It's a marathon. I have another shout out for you, and then last question will be a tongue-in-cheek one, but I did want to let you know that we had over 100 Rotarians and guests listening to your presentation today. So thank you. We do have a shout out from one United States Air Force male pilot who was a mentor to several female pilots. He would like to thank you for paving the way, and thank you for your service.
And thank him for doing that. That's awesome.
There you go, Jules. Okay, tongue-in-cheek question to wrap it up. Were you working for FedEx when the movie Castaway came out?
I was, and in fact, I flew, one of the pictures I showed you was an A300, and that is the same airplane that Tom Hanks was in. But I can tell you, and used to, it is true that any employee for FedEx could fly in the back of those airplanes around the world, anywhere we went, but nobody ever got to drink wine. That was not true.
Well, thanks a lot, Jane. It was such a pleasure to host you. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your service above self to your community, and now to York, Pennsylvania. Glad you had a safe landing in the Lehigh Valley. And we do have a book in honor of your participation and service to our club today. We'll ask you to sign a book plate that has a Rotary insignia upon that, and we will be donating that to, let me find out here. Oh geez, I've got it here somewhere. It is going to a worthy agency, I'm sure.
York Jewish Community Center.
Thank you, Ben, the JCC. Thanks a lot, Ben. Also, I want to let all Rotarians know that Dyer Hershey and Lisa Barshing are leading our diversity breakfast event that Jane described. Of course, we'll put our own York County touch on that, so we'll probably have some scrapple and bacon at that. But it is slated to occur this spring. Volunteers are welcome. If you're interested in serving on that excellent event that Jane described, please let Dyer Hershey or Lisa Barshing or me know. And you did see the banner, Rotary Club of York banner behind Jane. We shipped that to her in email. Also, they hosted presidential candidates, Mitt Romney and John McCain, in 2007. So we hope that you will all join us next week, because our speaker will be Cody Santiago, whose topic will be crisis management for our schools. Hope you all have a safe week, and I hope you enjoy our closing song by Mickey Guyton, What Are You Gonna Tell Her? Take care.